Working with our objects in JavaScript today, I have some new artwork moving on from the zombies, but the zombie will be hanging out. He'll be a pal with the alien in a little bit. One of them will be chasing the other. I'm not sure which way it'll go. When we're working with JavaScript objects, one of the things that we're going to do is define our object a little bit differently. So we are going to use what is called the object literal notation. So this is going to be a different way of writing our objects. The key thing to think about on it is we use a var statement instead of function, and we are going to use property, colon, and then the value for that property, and then a comma. So it's a comma delineated property value list. That is what an object literal is. And when we do that, it's a little different syntax. I think ultimately it makes it a little bit cleaner and easier to read, and that's part of why we're going to go down this route. So starting with the original document as we looked at it, where it just had made a couple copies of the zombie object and animated that on screen. This time what we are going to do is we're going to modify it a little bit. So I'm going to then, I will have a zombie. I'll leave my zombie class here, and I'm going to make an alien class. So the quick way that we can go about doing this, because both classes are going to have in essence identical methods or properties and variables associated with them, I'm just going to copy paste it and change the particulars to update the syntax for what we need. This new class that we work on will also then be able to be controlled by the keyboard. So I will integrate that functionality into this as well so we can see how we would go about doing that. One strategy for doing it, there are different ways that we could choose to do this kind of integration or combination of classes. And one may not be more right than another, but there are just different ways that we do it, and eventually you'll start to find ones that work better for your thought processes. So to start, I will copy the zombie class. Now I'll make this other one an alien. Highly recommend that you put comments in at the end of things so that we know what that curly brace goes with. Of course, Adam will show us. I click next to it, it puts the underline under it, and it shows the mating pair. So we can try and follow that. So that does help to allow us to see the two pages line up, or the two curly braces line up. So that makes it a little bit easier. So now what's going to change is we don't say function. It's not going to be zombie, but it will be var alien is equal to, and now we have to turn this list of values into a property value comma delineated list. So what happens is I am going to get rid of the word this in front of all of my primary values. And then I need to change all of my equal signs here to colons. Now I'm holding down the command key, and then that allows me to select multiple items. So then when I type the colon key, it replaces it all in one fell swoop. So now I've changed my properties to property colon value, and then we have to change the semicolons from semicolons to commas. So each one of these semicolons at the end of a line will need to be a comma. And when doing this, it can be a way to make things a little bit cleaner and easier to look at. Now this part here where we have the methods, we'll change it to update colon and then function, put a comma after that, and then get rid of the this in front of it. So when using object literal notation, one of the big advantages is we don't have as many functions. We don't have as many the keyword this appearing outside of things except within a function where it refers to one of these properties that we've defined previously. So where I have x, y, wh, speed x, speed y, scale factor, if I reference those in these methods or functions, I am required to use the keyword this. But outside of it, you'll notice I don't have the word this appearing, where using the function declaration method, I had to use this on each of the items. So it's a little different way of working with things, but as it stands right now, I have created an alien class and I've set up its properties. It's really easy when you do a change like this to forget to put a comma in after something and then it will break. Or if you copy paste something and then you have a comma after the last one, that will cause an error message as well. So we need to get rid of that. Now, Z2 is not going to be a zombie anymore, and I will change it to A2. Actually, we'll just make that one A1. And so, for all intensive purposes, they're the same thing, except they're looking a little bit different, but I want to load in my alien, I will load my alien image, which means I need to go find that, or create it, sorry. So we have the zombie image, zombie source, and then I will have my alien image. And this previous one was called guy. Now the zombie, I had changed some numbers around to show the alien image. So I'm going to put the zombie size back to the zombie size. The alien is at the alien size. But the alien is now going to show the alien image. Zombie will show the zombie image during its display command. So theoretically, this should work. So if we go and try and pull it up in the browser, we'll pull up and see. So, all right. Looks like we're on track here. So we have a different way of defining our objects. Loading the page correctly and hitting reload, I'll notice I'm getting an error message and it says type error, alien is not a constructor. And if I go back and I look here, I'm like, okay. Z1 is equal to new zombie, A1 is equal to new alien. So I would think that that would be the method that I could use, or the syntax, but it turns out when we use object literal, then we have to use a create method. So we say object create, and then inside parentheses we reference the kind of object that we are creating, and it's going to be an alien object. So our syntax for creating an instance of this is a little different, because instead of the word new, we're using object create. And for some people that's better because it's more explanatory as to what's happening. And when I say new, when we say new what? It's new is not as clear as to what it's doing. Object create makes more sense that I'm creating an object of the type alien. And for that reason, there are a lot of people out there that are of the camp that object create and object literal is the preferred way when instantiating objects. Now, it is possible that we can use full-on classes in ECMAScript 6, the newest iteration or version of JavaScript, and with that, then things change a little bit more. But I think it's useful to understand some of the previous syntax, because a lot of libraries out there have not been updated or converted to ES6. And because of that, when you look at it, if you're using ES6 and then you look at the old stuff, you'll be like, what is that? So the next kind of step in your JavaScript knowledge or progression is you will want to start, after you get some comfort with what we do this semester, is start learning ES6. So if I go back to my page and now load it, we'll see it loaded the two separate guys, or the guy and the alien. And now they're moving. And they're moving at the same speed, but it is set up to have the, okay, that was funny, to have the random size applied to them. Okay, that's just really funny. Put in the keyboard controls so that my alien can be manipulated through the keyboard. We're going to need a couple of things. We'll probably need some content from the key loop here. We won't need all of it because some of it is the drawing the image, clearing the rectangle, request the animation frame, and we already have that going on. Clearing the image, updating and displaying our alien, calling our animation loop. So that's done. We will almost assuredly need this information here of if left, right, up or down or pressed makes something happen. So we'll get to those in just a minute. But for sure, we're going to need our key up and key down methods. So I'll copy those. And where we put those inside of our code is not terribly important because they are defined as a function declaration, not a function expression. So my entire script has access to them. So I could put them at the beginning or end of my script and it'll have access to them, so I don't have to worry about that. Now, my object literal here, this is one thing to keep in mind. So I've defined this class, but I can't say var a1 equal object create alien up above it. I have to define the class first. Because remember, if I use the word var, I don't have access to that until after. So I can't ask for anything alien prior to line 50 in my code. So those keyboard commands are just going to stay as is. I'm just going to put them at the bottom so they don't really matter. You can just leave those in, forget about them. I have my event listeners. So I'm going to copy those, put those up at the beginning because they can gain access to it. I mean, I could put my event listeners at the end so I could pull everything, write up my whole game, and then define it. But I always like to do all of my DOM-related event listener things first whenever possible, so that's at the top of my code. Then define my variables, then have all of my functions after that, and then build in my program logic as the final item. So that's my preferred way of working. Your mileage will vary. I'll put a return in there. So we grab the context, and then we tell the window to listen for key down. We tell it to listen for key up. And then we are going to set the focus of our canvas. But in this instance, the focus was set to the KB element. This time we are going to set the focus to our canvas element. Because if I ask for KB, KB doesn't exist in this file, so it would fail because my canvas element here has an ID of canvas. Where in this other one, there were 5 separate canvases, so each one had a unique name. All right, we've taken care of that. And now we're going to need left, right, up, and down because we set those values when we press the keys. So I'll copy those. And we can now define that up at the beginning of our document. So var left, right, up, and down, they're all false. Okay, we're good to go there. Now, what we really have to do is figure out how to do something with it. And if I look at inside my keyboard loop, let's see wherever that was. In my keyboard loop, it would change the X position or Y position of my object based on what key was pressed. So that makes sense, but I think we can do better. Because if we look at our alien class, we'll see the alien has an X and Y, okay, X position, Y position, but it also has a speed value. And what we might want to do is to apply a speed value and then modify that speed value so we use that to adjust our position. So we have, if I get rid of the border protection there, so we say X is equal to speed plus speed X. Same thing for Y. All right, but we need to change speed X and speed Y based on pressing those keys. So I'll just copy that from the one file. And this is one of the real nice things when working in Atom, where you can split your window when you're merging between different files. Instead of having to click between tabs, I can be seen both at the same time. So I find that to be a really useful way of working. I enjoy that. Now, speed X. So if I press left, we probably don't want speed X to keep decreasing by 5. We just want speed X to be equal to -5. That would make more sense. When I'm holding down left, I want speed X to become -5. All right, if I'm holding down right, I want speed X to be equal to 5. So that would make sense. And do the same thing here. Speed Y is equal to -5. Because going up means we're reducing it. Speed Y is equal to 5 when I press down. Okay. Well, we can save that. Alien, I don't want the alien to start with any speed. Probably want to start it with a speed of 0. Let's try this. Refresh the page. No error messages, but nothing happening. Now, one thing we'll notice is before I put this in here, it stopped working. Didn't error out, but it did stop working because it didn't know. Right here, it's asking for speed. This is the speed X of this. When I just said speed X, it's like, I don't know what speed X is. And this is one of the things about JavaScript. You don't have to use the word var to define a variable. So because I did not have the word var, this in here, this would be the same as if I just typed var speed X, except that now I'm asking for the speed X of this actual alien, which starts out with a value of 0. So then it wouldn't work. So when I remember that within a method function, if I'm referring to the properties of the object, I have to use the word this. If I'm referring to something defined outside of that function or object, left, right, up, and down are outside of it, so my keyboard has access to it. So because of that, then it works. Now, knowing that, now if I go back into this file here, if I press down left, it starts moving. Down, oh. Okay, this is a problem. Once I'm moving, I can't stop because I don't have any controls based on not, okay, that's getting hard to keep up with. I don't have anything that will reset it. So when I let go of the keys and left, right, up, or down become false, I don't have anything in my code looking for that. So I need to do a little more addition here within this. So put a comment in here so it makes more sense. Set speed on key down. Remove speed on key up. So when I let go of a key, so if not left and not right, meaning I'm not left or right have now both been released, speed this dot speed x is equal to 0. Now this kills it right away. If we wanted to do an animated effect, we could have the speed x reduced by a certain amount until it gets close enough to 0, then we set it to 0. We could write that into it if we want, but for right now we'll just leave it at this for understanding purposes. Now we'll do up, down, and change the x to a y. Now if we go back, let's see how it works. Refresh the page, down, let go. So now I can move my alien off screen. So we could institute asteroid screen wrapping, or we can institute borders where we're stuck within the rectangle. Both are easily achievable options. Now, if you go back into some of your previous programming projects and processing, you will have learned how to either bounce something off the walls or how to do asteroid screen wrapping, but we'll just do asteroid screen wrapping for now. And I do want to just put a comment after this one. This is our update position information. All right, so for doing our asteroid screen wrapping, so if this dot x is greater than, now if I go into my document, we'll see that my canvas is 600. So I could set a value based on asking what is the width of our screen. At this point we need to, wrong key. Then this dot x is equal to 0. And now we end up having a couple of these. So if my x is less than 0, my x, I'm going to set the x equal to 600. And then change a couple of these over to y's because we need to do our y position. My y is greater than 600. I'll set y to 0. My y is less than 0. Set it equal to 600. And I can't refresh the page off the keyboard because I've disabled the default keyboard input, so it only will capture the arrows. Now if I go here, notice he disappears the moment there's a faint blue line indicating kind of the bubble of my space alien. And the moment it hits the top, we can see he's down at the bottom here. So that needs to be fixed. Now if I go to the side here, he gets to wander all the way off and then reappear, but in its entirety. So using 0 and the width of it maybe are not the values that we want. We may want to adjust it a little bit. So if I go this way, the moment, oh. So we're being adjusted by the size of the object. So we need to modify things a little bit. So when I'm going all the way over to the side here, that works going all the way off. Okay, that's good. But now, when he comes back, I don't want him to come back to 0. Let's bring him to a negative w. Now, negative w is going to work if his size were fixed, but that w value is adjusted by a scale factor. So if you remember, we're drawing our entities based on this scale factor. So we're going to have to modify that number not just by w, but multiply it by this dot scale factor. If we forget this, it will less than politely tell us. We have to make sure that if we don't have the console up and we load our pages, we'll be like, now it's empty. What's wrong? But I look here, it said, hey, W is not defined on line 91. I looked there, oh yeah, I forgot the this. Okay. Now I know it's going to be the same thing on the Y as well. So it will be a negative H multiplied by, negative this dot H multiplied by this dot scale factor. Now let's try again. Go up. Okay. Currently the code, if I go to the edge of the screen, and now its position is minus 92. But if I look at the next line of the code, it says, hey, if x is less than 0, negative 92 is less than 0, set it back to 600. Well, oh, wait, now it's 600. Oh, wait, I move over. I set it back to negative 92, so I get caught in this off-screen little warp. So we have to change these values as well up here. So then it's now setting it up. So now it should, and as always, I forgot the word this. Oh, that's a tiny alien this time. And now he's wrapping correctly. So now we're able to get a much better wrap. As soon as he disappears, now he's coming back on screen. Subjected to a little bit of size issue because we're not using the scale factor. If we used the scale factor, we could get it exactly. So as soon as he's totally off, he'd immediately come on during the next move cycle. But I'm trying to get let's get a bigger alien so it's easier to see. The bigger one is going to be much less noticeable when he goes off screen and coming back on.